Hello, welcome back to Our Town, Our Take, episode 4. I'm Ariane.
I'm Jackson.
I'm Sydney.
And I'm Chase.
And what's going on with that GHS band and choir?
The weekend of March 11th and 10th and 11th, the GHS band and choir will be performing at OMEA large group, and it'll be like a contest for them to show off all the work they've been putting in this entire year.
And that's for choir, correct?
Yeah,
And then
and
band is
band,
also
the same
competing?
weekend,
And
yeah.
band's winter concert is March 7th.
Oh, good. Okay, well, now that we've covered the arts, green sports have had a pretty good season. The swim teams just competed at states. Liv Elgin, senior at Green, she placed third. So big congrats to her. And then the girls bowling team is states bound. So good luck to them. And both basketball teams, the girls basketball team and the boys basketball team, they were Federal League champions. So another good season for them. And finally, of course, the Paw Print Issue 8. We're coming out next Friday, March 10th.
Also, I know with the spring season for sports coming up, track season's rolling around, and you can still sign up for practices. And our first meet is March 28th against Hoover. So
Good luck.
thank you.
Speaking of track, a great place to run now that the weather is picking up is the Willadale Trail. It is between Coons Road and Bettler Park. And personally, I'm very excited for it. I think connectivity is an incredible concept, and I think Green needs it. So I can't wait, personally.
I mean, I would agree. It's nice to have somewhere to walk, even outside your own home, maybe, eventually.
And spring break's right around the corner. Does anyone have any plans for spring break?
The track meet.
I'm staying here in Ohio this year,
Probably.
I think.
I don't know for sure. I think my family has a trip down to Atlanta, so I'm very excited for that.
Sounds fun.
And we'll be back with Doug Oplinger to talk about Green Leaders Future Focused. And we're back with Doug Oplinger, who's a 3-time Pulitzer Prize winning journalist who worked at the Akron Beacon Journal for 46 years. He attended the University of Akron, where he studied political science, economics, and history, and then went on to receive a master's degree from the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern. And nowadays he works at the American Bar Association on a task force focused on civil democratic practices. He also works with the United Methodist Church on rethinking its mission, and he recently co-authored a book on journalism innovation, and now he works with a variety of community problem-solving groups. So thank you for joining us.
Sure. Happy to be here.
Well, that is a stunning resume, Doug. Anything to add? What do you do in your spare time? Nothing.
No, actually, our church is now, Greensburg United Methodist is building beds for kids who need beds in the Akron-Canton area. And we've built, I think, 60, and we're going to do 40 more in a few weeks. It's turned into a big project.
Yeah, I think Green High School Key Club helped out with that one
We
weekend.
did. I was able to bring out a few volunteers, and we were able to help make some beds for people that
Good.
really needed it.
Yes, Green High cut our production time in half.
Yes, it went by a lot faster than when I did it earlier this year.
So our upcoming event is the Green Future Focus event, and Mr. Oplinger will be facilitating it.
Well, this will be the second time I have done this. I've done focus groups and community meetings back to the early 90s, but the last 6 years have done probably more than 50 community conversations around the state with news organizations, helping reporters and editors better understand what's going on in their communities.
Yeah. Can you tell us the purpose of the Green Future Focus event?
Sure. One of the things that really helps organizations stay on task and think about how can we best serve the community is to have a conversation where everybody is sitting around tables and talking as equals and brainstorming about something that we want to make better in our community. And as we do that, people bring their own life experiences and perspectives to the table. And as they do that, they begin to find out that things that they thought might be simple to fix are actually more complicated because his life experience may be at odds with what I thought was the answer. And what happens is as you talk, you begin to think about those complexities, but you also begin to figure out where you agree on something. And that allows you to find a focus that you can work on together. In spite of your differences, you can work on together to solve a community problem.
So you mentioned that you're going into your second year of doing this. So can you tell us about your experience last year with the City of Green and give us some of the reports of what you gathered?
That had to be one of the most fun conversations I've ever done.
Yes, I can also agree with that. I was there last year. It was a good time.
Yeah. And this is a high achieving, high expectation group. And when I did lots of other meetings, people would come to the meeting not having an idea what was going to be happening. You seem to, whenever you gather, there is energy and let's go. So that made that conversation fast-paced. We got through a lot of work. We talked about how would you define a good community where you would want to live? And we put the attributes of a good community up on a large sheet of paper. And then we talked about what would we change about our community to make it like that. And that allowed you to kind of dream about these are some things that we might want. And as you did that, it was really interesting that one of the most important themes that came out of that was you wanted to build relationships, that was really important to a good community. And having places to have activities together, having communication systems, but all these things kind of came together to an acknowledgement that this is important for mental health. It's important for solving problems. So that was a general theme, but then as we took a dive into what are some tasks that you might want to tackle, the thing that you voted on as most important was creating a sustainable community, both environmentally, thinking about climate, food, transportation. You thought about all these things. How would we make these work to make it a community that can be self-sustaining? You talked about it would be nice to have a building where you could gather. I forget what you called it, the community gathering place, activities building?
Community center.
A community center, okay.
Yes.
And it seems to me that since a year ago, that's now in the works, right?
Yes, there is community courts going in. The new middle school. I think it's personally an incredible idea. It will be more engaging. People can go there during the day, older adults, and then we can have so many more practices and teams for younger kids during after school hours.
So when you think about the conversations you had and how you talked about a need for this kind of thing, do you think that that conversation helped public officials make a decision to go ahead and do this? Does it make their work any easier when they hear a group of people talk about that?
I think so, because you as you mentioned, getting new perspectives on things. Mm-hmm. That's the way to go. Because if you think like one-mindedly, like one track, you can't embrace what other people have to offer, and you can't embrace like other people's opinions.
Right. So you can take credit for this, right?
Well, if I remember last year, Mayor Nuggebauer was at the meeting. And so, I definitely think he had a pen and notepad writing some stuff down, yes. But what he could do at least.
I agree. Mayor Nuggebauer has a real good sense, I think, of things that are desired by people in the community. And when he hears conversations like this, it gives him the energy to go ahead with those ideas.
Going off of relationships, I know you said that's another part of this event. For my own account, it was very intriguing to be sat at different tables throughout the event because, like we said, the mayor was there, the council clerk was there, librarian was there. It was just different city people, and they were mingling with students. and just that crossover and intertwining the government people with citizens, I think it proved to be effective in talking about the changes we want to see. And that's important as well to the event.
Yeah, I agree. It was funny. There was a young woman who insisted that we've got to figure out how to make highways that absorb water, to let water soak through so that we don't have runoff. And she was adamant that we needed that. But what was great was the mayor was there, who was an engineer, and said that right now that science is not perfected. And that's the beauty of these conversations. When you have an idea and someone with a scientific background who says that this still needs improved, maybe we can set that aside for now and come back to it later. So that's why I like these conversations. You get some experts at the table who help us with to apply our dreams in a way that are workable. And I'm hoping we can do that with this next conversation as well.
So you earlier mentioned that you want people with diverse viewpoints to be involved to kind of get that gained perspective from different parts of life. Besides that, would you say there's anything else you seek an ideal participant for the program?
Really, it's the diverse experiences that help with decision making. What is really required of people is that they acknowledge that other people have skills and experiences, that every idea is a good idea. Be honest about what you think and what you desire, get it on the table, and then listen to other people. And it's important to not say someone else is wrong, because their story is theirs. And it is their story that helps you think more deeply about solutions that will work for everybody, no matter what their life experiences are.
I know we've been talking about like the good things that came out of last year's event, but is there anything you disliked about the pace or like
Something you want to improve on?
Yeah, something you want to improve on.
I don't think I got to eat anything.
With food in there.
Not really. It was, like I said, it was probably the most fun group I've ever done. And I came in worried that I would not live up to the expectations of the group because I knew that this was a high-achieving group. But it went really well. It's interesting how that turned out because you all cared about the question at hand. And you wanted to be involved in that conversation, and you wanted to help be part of the solution. When we talk at the next meeting about community sustainability, which will include climate and environment, I expect that this group will also be very animated because I know that in polling, the planet is the top concern for young people. I did a conversation at our church on this same topic several months ago, and most of the people were over 60. And Chase, you were there. You may have some thoughts about that of your own, but it was kind of like, well, why are we talking about this? What are we going to do about this? We can't do anything about this. We're too old. It shows that this is a generational issue, and older people are worried about the price of milk, the price of gas, medications, traffic on I-77, whereas you're thinking a bigger picture, and that is, am I going to be able to live on this planet in 50 or 60 years? To you, that's a crisis today. So it was interesting watching this older group. I don't know if you had any thoughts about that, Chase. You were the only person there, I think, under 60.
I was definitely one of the only few. I actually enjoyed the conversation, at least the people that I sat with. They weren't too informed about the issue, but once they started getting the conversation, they started understanding the problem, at least from our younger perspective of why maybe they should care about it a little more. I definitely think it was an eye-opening on both sides, at least for me and hopefully for them.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to have a diverse group, because younger people bring that sense of urgency when it comes to the environment.
Well, you're a citizen of Green yourself, so you're always aiding these conversations, but what are your thoughts on your ideal community?
Oh,
Yeah, like your personal goals, opinions.
wow. My idea of an ideal community. I do think that mass transportation is something that we need. We need diversity. I worry about the lack of diversity because I think that the lack of diversity allows us to live in a bubble. This community is blessed with a high level of education, high incomes. It's what you call self-actualized, where people are thinking community. And I worry that we don't think about communities around us that don't have those kinds of blessings. What responsibility do we have to those communities? So I worry about this community caring about other communities that need help.
I'll make sure to mention some of those at the next meeting.
Whatever you care about is what's important.
When you go into these communities, do you tend to see the same things among generations? Do you tend to see the same issues among younger people and older people? Or do you see a mix?
It varies by community. I've listened to more than 1,200 people around the state in community conversations. And it's interesting that in communities that have been struggling economically the longest, and that might be the Youngstown-Warren area and Dayton, people there no longer said, we need the government to come in and save us. They're saying, we know the government's not going to save us. We've got to figure out how to fix our communities ourselves. We've got to redefine our idea of happiness. Our idea of happiness can no longer be economic growth. We've got to think about how we provide our own food, how we support each other locally in our community, in our families, and our friends. And they are the ones farther down the road in this idea of sustainability simply because they've been forced into it. There are a lot of our communities that aren't there yet. Probably some communities like Greene and Kettering, Ohio, and Springboro, which is another wealthy community. They don't see the same kinds of problems we do, although they worry about the cost of higher education, and they talk about problems with transportation, and they talk about mental health.
I definitely feel like mental health is starting to be prioritized more as an issue. In fact, tomorrow at school, it's a mental health day at GHS. So instead of learning in classes, we will be playing games or watching a movie. It's basically, it's designed to be a day to rest.
Ah. Yes. You know, a day of mental health can also be a day of intellectual stimulation. You could have conversations. Now that
I don't know how the other students would feel about that, but I can maybe pitch that.
I mean, we would be willing to. We don't feel about the.
I'll tell you, when you have a conversation where the brains start firing, not exploding, but firing, it is stimulating. It's fun. And when you, like we did a year ago, after a couple hours of conversation, you walk away excited about what we've just done here and what we can go do now. So don't think about a mental health day as just playing chess or doing puzzles or whatever else you're doing. It's also, let's sit around and talk about how we can fix something.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, this event is in April, and it's here at the Community Hall building in Central Park. So if anyone is interested, come on out.
All right, so I'm just going to add a little bit of urgency to this.
Okay.
We're going to talk about sustainability and environment. Anybody notice that we haven't had to shovel snow for 2 months?
I have noticed that.
Yes, I've been disappointed in the lack of snow days this year.
I'm the opposite. I love this weather.
Oh.
I'm glad that it's nice. I can roll my windows down and get a smoothie, make it feel like it's almost summer.
So we ended February at almost 10 degrees above normal. And January was about 10 degrees above normal. we had the second least amount of snow in February in recorded history for the Akron Canton area. And recorded history goes back, I think, to 1888. And to add urgency to this, our conversation, the Akron Canton Airport has the 10 hottest years in history, which would be 135 years of history. Of the 10 hottest years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 were in the last 10 years. 6 in the last 10 years. That's a warning sign. This is affecting us. There are people taking down trees all over Greene because trees have been blowing down in ways that they never have before. And then this chart is the annual average temperature going back to 1989. And you can see how the average temperature is rising. This is the average for the period, and then these are the temperatures for the years. Something really important is happening. How does this affect insect life, animal life? Have you noticed green stuff growing on people's houses? That's a relatively new thing in our area, and people are having to wash their houses because they've got mold growing on them. That's because of the weather. You know, we probably can't solve this problem, but we can talk about what are ways that we can help alleviate some of this, and we can also talk about, and what do we do to endure this change? Because it's already happening.
I think that the first step would probably have to be just education in general. Some people, it's changing now with the conditions worsening, but some people don't believe it till they see it, and now they can finally, people are starting to see it. I mean, look at this winter. It was barely a winter with just almost no snow. So now with people starting to actually see the change, I think they might start to care more about these types of issues.
Right. So you can start a movement to reverse temperatures so we can have snow days, right?
I know for our environmental club at school, our mission statement is just spread awareness as much as we can, because you won't always convince someone to believe in our cause or believe in like the changes we feel like with government or just your own personal ecological footprint, trying to change that. But spreading awareness, at least making it an issue that people are talking about, it'll help.
Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure.
I can't wait for the conversation.
So you're putting the pressure on again.
I am. I'm hoping it's just as good as last year, if not better.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you. I always enjoy spending time with you folks.